Hey, Speak Easy podcast listeners. I am super excited. So, if you don't know, maybe you've been under a rock. I understand it. But we've been doing this special series of Boys to Men. And part of it is because y'all know I'm rooted and grounded in Philly. But the other part of it is that I see that right now our men need our support. They need our encouragement. We listen, we need to come together. I know we can't really high five right now, but we can kind of we can air high fives. So I'm excited to bring this series to you. 13 men coming together to share, what that journey has looked like going from boys to men, and man, just inspiring you with their personal stories. That listen, their triumphs, their failures sometimes, but I want it to be a place where you're actually taking action. That's the biggest thing, guys. You always know that I'm always pushing you guys to take action. So I'm excited about my next guest. Hello, Jerry. How are you?
Hello. Glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for saying yes. Now, I know so much about you because I've actually known you for years.
Yeah.
But I want you to tell the Speak Easy podcast listeners a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into today's topic.
All right. Awesome. Well, my name is Jerry-Franklin-Poe, and I am the founder of Potential Unlimited LLC. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania, not in Philadelphia, but outside of Philly. I grew up about 35 miles southwest of Philly in a town called Avondale, Pennsylvania. And I've been knowing my sister here for, almost 15, it's probably been about 15 years, I guess. And I was fortunate to have her invite me on this call, this recording interview today. And I just want to share some of the insights I've gained as a man who's matured. Now I'm a father, a husband. I have two daughters who are now, one is high school age, one is middle school age, but been married for 14 years. It doesn't seem like that's been that long, but it's like, wow, 14 years. So I'm ready to have you just pick my brain and find out as much as you can, because I believe in paying it forward. I don't think that we can figure everything out in our lifetime. So what we need to do is tap into others. A quote that I love, it says that a smart man learns from their own experience, but a wise man learns from the experience of others. So when you can tap into other people's information, other people's knowledge, it only compounds the lifetime that you can experience. I've been a big fan of learning from other people's stories, so I'm glad to contribute to be here with everybody else today.
I'm excited. So that leads us into our first story. Our first question is, what is a dad story or a father story that has really impacted your business?
Great question. A dad story or father story that has impacted my business. Well, when I think back about my journey, my experience may be a little bit different than others because I come from generations of business owners. So my dad had his own business. My grandfather had his own business. So I saw the autonomy that it gave both of them. My dad attended every wrestling match that I ever had. I don't know how, like when I became a father, I didn't get it. I didn't get it because, when you're a child, you don't think of time because your day is from like school starts to school ends. You don't think about how people work from 9 to 5. So when you have activities and they're after school, all of your activities are before 5 o'clock. Most of us, when we're in middle school. And then high school, some of them are like right after the work time. So you don't think about as a person as you're going through, like, well, how do parents show up for stuff? And it wasn't until I became a parent that I started to notice, like, man, these schools got some jacked up times for when they schedule things. Like, this is really weird. Like, why do they schedule everything at these weird times? And then it had me appreciate the autonomy that my father had being a business owner where he could control his schedule and show up for stuff. And as a father now, I'm thankful that before I had children, I started a business because when they were born, all my daughters know is my life as an entrepreneur. They don't know any other part of me. They've never seen me work a job. So they've seen me be there for field trips. They, when it comes to time, like I don't have to be like, I can't make it because I have to work. What I'm able to do is schedule my business schedule. So I look at, okay, when am I going to go speak? When am I going to go on tour? I can base it off of the school calendar. So if there's a field trip coming up, now this is before the situation changed where we are in now with the schools closing, but before, I could go to the field trips. And what I started to notice, a lot of parents weren't there. So for example, Layla, my oldest daughter, she's in 8th grade, and they had what they called a poetry cafe. And the parents could come and watch the kids read their poetry, their whole class. So when I got there, they were like 3 parents, 2 mothers, and me. So that was interesting. There's only 3 people showed up, and you had like 50 kids. And then the teachers were like, well, if you don't have to stay for the whole time, you could just watch your child if you don't want to leave. And I was like, well, I'm here to honor all these kids. If they don't have an audience, then it's like, what is it seem to them? Was it worth it to them? They don't, like, no one's showing up. They're just speaking to empty chairs. They may not be at the point mentally where they can handle speaking to empty chairs. So I'm here like, what am I going, like, this is for them. But I had the ability to be there. Other people may not have that ability. So what I saw from my father was being there. And I didn't really know what that meant, because that's what I knew. But it wasn't until later on when I heard other people talk about their parents not being there, or folks not supporting them. It's kind of like, well, that's all I knew. So for me, being able to pass that on, my daughters don't know what life is like being unsupported. They don't understand how spoiled they are. They don't get that other people don't have luxuries that they have. They don't get, because this is what they consider to be just regular. They consider to be regular, that we could just go and they could do, and they don't have limitations, and other people have it. They don't understand that that's not normal. So my father business story is putting myself in a position to be able to be there and have the choice to be there. And I didn't think about that when I started. That's not why I got in business. I didn't get into business thinking about one day when I have kids, I should be at their field trips. That's not why I did it. It was all pure selfish reasons. I wanted to have my own, I wanted control of me, like me. This is before wife, before kids. Now, as a byproduct of having that desire to have control over me, it's now giving me the ability to have time for them. So time is a very precious commodity. I look at time as a bank account where you don't know the balance. And some people don't really get that until it's too late, that time is a bank account where they don't know the balance. So being able to give them time, like I have no idea how much time I have with my daughters. So my goal is to give them as much of me while I'm here as I can, so they won't have something to carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Okay, so you just dropped so many gems and nuggets in that time frame. Putting yourself in position is a really significant one, because especially where we are right now, many people are like, it's looking a lot different than what we thought before. Before, putting yourself in position was doing the right thing so you could get that promotion at the job.
Right.
Now, putting yourself in position, maybe going and starting a water ice stand, so that way you can go ahead and still be able to take care of the bills and things that you have. So I absolutely love that you hit on that. And time being the bank account where you don't know how much you have.
You don't know the balance.
So, that is so significant, because that's where we are right now. We've been given time, but so many people don't see it. They don't understand it. As you were talking, I was sitting here smiling, because it made me think about how my girls, they've done, for the last 4 years, they've done musicals at the high school.
Right.
And I've been at every show. And the last show, I go and get flowers for all the students, and I throw them on the stage as if it was a Broadway performance,
Right.
because I value being able to see them do that. I know some of the children, their parents aren't there to see any of the shows.
Right.
So that's really significant. And the fact that you were the only father there, that stands out. Oh my goodness. Above and beyond. So with that being said, where we are right now
Mm-hmm.
in figuring out what to do with time, even with us being homeschooling, because that was not in the parenting handbook
Right.
at all. That didn't come with
Right.
the manual from the hospital or nothing, y'all. It wasn't in there. But with time, what does that look like right now? Because right now, everything when it comes to the dynamic of the family lifestyle has shifted. So what is something that they can do now? Because the big places aren't open where we could go to a movie. So what does that look like?
Well, now time has to take more than one shape is what I'm looking. I think that's the word, because as parents, you were conditioned to have off time. Like, you didn't look at it as off time because you were going to work, but that was like a break from your home life. So it was, now we're in a position where we are around each other almost 24/7, right? And there's no individual time. There's like, you're not getting this, your children aren't going to school. So there's no break. There's no break between, there's no separation. Now, before we were like, oh man, I wish I had more time with them. And sometimes people don't know what they're really asking for. So now we're all together in a collective space, and some of us tighter spaces than others. So you really have to look at time twofold. You have to look at me time and their time, because if you don't think about me time, it's going to hinder their time. If you are so involved in their time, it's depleting yourself. So therefore, the quality of their time is less than what it would have been if you take in some more me time. And I get the things aren't open, but that means you have to be creative. Like, what we don't realize is how dependent upon things we are that didn't always exist. All right, so Netflix didn't always exist. So what did you do before it? The smartphone didn't always exist. So what did you do before it? A bowling alley didn't always exist. So there are things that didn't always exist. So the question is, well, what did you do before it? What did people do before it? Before people actually read. Families would get together, and they might not have a whole library. Typically families had one book, and I'm not going to go too far in the other direction, but that book that most people had in their house was a Bible. So they would read the Bible together, right? That's what we go. If we go back a century, right? It's 2020 right now. If you go back to 1920, people were reading in their household. Everybody didn't have a TV. Everybody didn't have a radio. So they read together as a family. What they do, they talked together as a family. They would have conversations with each other. So now what we have done is we have become so segmented in our entertainment. Like, everybody has their own personal entertainment choices. I have a screen, you have a screen, they have a screen. So everybody gets to pick whatever they want. When I tell my daughters all the time, like, you guys don't understand. Like, we had one TV in the living room, and whatever was on it, that's all I had to watch. So if my dad wanted to watch something, I was like, you just sat there, you just suck it up. Like, you couldn't be like, well, now it's my turn. It wasn't no your turn. It wasn't no your turn. Okay. And so a lot of times we have grown so accustomed to what it is. Like, for example, I guess it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a bad storm and the power went out for like 6 or 7 hours, which is not that bad. I mean, and overall, because people have lost power for days. But in that moment, it was interesting because everybody was home at the same time with no power. So it's like, what do you do? Like, what do? We can't watch TV. We can't get on our tablets. We can't get on our, and personally, like, I don't have a lot of electronics for my children. Like, my daughters don't have their own phones. They don't have their own tablets, because that's just, I'm not saying anybody else is right or wrong. That's just the decision that we made as a household, because you don't need to call nobody. Like, if you're with me or you're with your mother, then there's nobody else for you really to call. Like, you don't have to call nobody. So that was just our personal decision. But what I'm saying is that when things are taken away from you, then your brain has to start to kick in. A lot of times people don't want to think. They don't want to think about what to do because they're so used to people giving to them. When you have stuff given to you over and over again, and you don't have to actually create yourself, then it puts you in a weakened position. So now if you have all this time, that gives you an opportunity to be creative. Like, what can you create with your family? What could you do? Like, certain things don't require electricity. They don't require power. You could play cards. You could play a board game. Like, I taught Layla and Jaylin, my daughters, how to play chess. So we could play chess against each other. There's things we could do. Like, I had them read, like, okay, you read this book. And I'm not trying to say my way is better than anybody else's, but these are just some suggestions. Like, I had them you have to do a book report to me. Like, you read this book and nonfiction, because they like to read. And I'm not against fiction, but that's, they're into the fantasy and the characters, which is great. I got that. I buy them those books too, right? I bought them a whole series of books by Kobe Bryant that are fiction, that have stories tied in about success. But I also want them to read other books that are specifically about success and life. So you read the book, okay, you got an hour, and you got to come back and give me an oral presentation. You're going to do an oral book report. Not writing anything down. You have to present this information to me. So that's up to the individual parent. I'm doing that because I'm about skill development. So I want them to be able to speak on their feet in front of people, to be able to take information and process it and come with their own conclusions. I'm thinking about what life's going to be like in the future. I don't really care about grades as much. I care about how well can you learn, and if you develop the ability to extract information from what you read and create your own thoughts behind it. So yes, with all this time, parents need to do two things. Number one, get creative with their time with their family. And number two, make sure they're taking time with themselves. Like yesterday, I just went outside and walked around by myself. And you need to be able to create your own space to maintain your own sanity, because being confined together, like, it's great for us to be together. That's one thing. But there's also benefits, and it all depends on the personality. My personality is more introverted, so I get power from being alone. Sometimes it recharges me. So as a parent, sometimes you might have to go step outside and do your own thing for a couple minutes to get yourself back together, so you have more energy to give back to your children. And I think it's a balancing act, and you got to find out what works best for you. Like, there's not one solution that's best for everybody, because everybody's different, and every household is different, and everybody has different spacing, different amount of outside space and inside space. You might have to you may not be able to go outside and walk around in the grass. So you might have to go into a room by yourself and shut the door and just stay in the dark, quiet space and take a few minutes to think and meditate, to get yourself together, and then come back out to be with the family. So I think time has to be looked at from a balance of all of us together and all of us as an individual, because we have this 2 months we've been together in this time period. It's been I think Pennsylvania, it was in the middle of March, when they started telling everybody to stay home. So now it's almost June now. And now when this is playing, it'll be June. So a lot of us just aren't realizing that psychologically there are things happening to us by being confined in certain spaces and being confined together. And, people can start getting on your nerves more if you don't take that time to be by yourself.
True indeed. And, that's one of the biggest things. I know for women, we often, always talk about, that self-care. And we talk about, we can't do it right now, but going to get your nails done, go do different things like that. But for men, that's not really a topic of discussion. I mean, you may hear it among men every once and again and say, hey man, you may need to go, they won't go to a massage parlor or massage salon or a spa, but
it depends on the person.
Yeah, man, you need to go to the chiropractor. Well,
it depends. There's certain stigmas when it comes to men, but if any man out here is watching, I have a subscription to Hand and Stone, and I get a massage and a facial at least once a month. And that to me is because I am a product And because I am a product, I have to make sure that my product is in its best condition. So if I'm, when I traveled a lot and I'm on airplanes and, I'm in front of people, so my appearance matters, how I look matters. And just like, so, they just had this documentary with Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. If anyone watched it, every day, those men were on tables getting taken care of by other people. Sometimes it was a man who was a trainer. Sometimes it was a woman who was a trainer. They were getting massages. They were getting wrapped up, taped up. Why? Because they are the product. And just like you take care of a car, you have to change the oil in the car every 3 months, every 3,000 miles. You have to put gas in its tank, otherwise it won't work. You have to rotate the tires. You have to change all the fluids. Well, if you just run yourself like you would, if you ran yourself the same way you ran your car, then you wouldn't get burnt out as much. And that's the thing people don't think about. If they would treat their car the way they treat themselves, like you just drive and drive and drive, eventually it would just break down. The engine would seize up. You'd run out of gas. You wouldn't be prepared if you had a flat tire. So we have to think about how we treat ourselves. And there's a certain stigma. Like men in our culture have a certain stigma, and we don't believe that we need to ask for help as much as sometimes women do, or we don't talk to each other sometimes women do. But I think it really depends. I think with men, it's more of a trust issue. And we weren't taught to, I don't know if we weren't taught to trust other people as much as we taught to trust ourselves or rely on other people. So, I know I have trust issues personally. I do. And I'm just selective as to who I let in my group. But once you're in the group, I look at things based on the temple. So the temple was broken up into sections. You had the Holy of Holies, you had the inner court, and you had the outer court. And that's why I segment people in my life. I have a lot of people in the outer court. They don't know it because we are cordial to each other. They don't know where they are, right? Then I have some people who are in the inner court, but then I have a few folks who are in the Holy of Holies. They see things of me, just like you. I'm sure you do as well, right? They see parts of me that other people don't see. They know parts of me that other people don't know. And I think that's a great way. I teach my daughters that. I teach them that you need to have friends, associates, and acquaintances. That everybody's not going to be your friend. That you can be nice to everybody, but everyone is not going to be the one that needs to be close to you, because some people aren't worthy of your friendship. So I think that's where, where men and women differ, is the trusting of other people with the things that are close to us. And we have a tendency to like hold it in, to keep it to ourselves, because we don't want to be seen as weak or weaker. Because if someone identifies a weakness in you, then they could use it against you to take you down. And usually within tribes, there's always an alpha. There's always one head person, right? So if you have one head person, everybody else is always challenging that person. Now, if you think about in the Lion King, Scar was always challenging Mustafa. So if you have somebody who sees that weakness in you, then they could use it as an advantage to take over, because they may not have your best interest. So weird thing is like, well, I don't know who is for me, who's against me, so I'm going to keep everything to myself. I'm not going to show any sign of weakness at all. And that could be detrimental to your success. That could be a roadblock as well. So yeah, I decided probably 2 years ago that, look, I'm getting a massage once a month. I deserve it. And then I had to buy 2 memberships, because I can't be like, I'm getting a massage once a month and my wife's not getting a massage once a month. So I'm like, I do want to sleep at night with my eyes closed.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, I got to get 2. I had to get like myself and one for her. So that gives, the option of you doing something to like, and that hour is the time for you just to like, let it go, because you're not the mother at that point. You're not the wife at that point. You're not the husband at that point. You're not the father at that point. You're separate. You got somebody whose their job is now to nurture you. And if you don't get nurtured or supported, then it's going to be difficult for you to support other people continuously.
Ooh-wee. I hope you guys were listening in. And I know that like I said, that's, we know that that's a taboo topic for so many because of the deep-rooted things that come along with it. But man, taking care of yourself is so very important, not just now, but continuously. It needs to be a habit. And so that means y'all know it takes at least 21 days for you to start or stop a habit. So that means that you need to be starting today and finding some ways that you can definitely take care of yourself, because we are no good to anyone if we are not working at our highest capacity, if we're not working at our fullest potential. And we're even damaging not only ourselves, but those around us.
Yeah.
Because it's like a poison. If you are not at your fullest, every person that you come in contact with, you're changing that into them and you're giving that to them. So we can't expect anybody else to raise up to a higher level because we ourselves are not at that higher level. So I definitely appreciate that. Jerry, tell them how they can reach out to you for more information and where they can find you online.
Awesome. I'm on every social media platform. If you go to @jerry-poe at Twitter, or @jerry-poe at Facebook, or @jerry-poe at Instagram. Also, www.jerry-poe.com. It's real simple, easy to find me. So I'm probably the only Jerry-Franklin-Poe out there when you type in Google. So for those who want to get in contact with me, you can follow me on any of the social media platforms, or jerry-poe.com is a great place to find me. And, the key is, back to what you said about taking care of yourselves. If we would think of ourselves the same way we think of our sneakers, then we wouldn't have as many challenges. A lot of us, especially in our culture, you got that toothbrush to keep them kicks nice and fresh, right? You got to put that Windex on it and scrub it down to keep it fresh. We take a lot of time in our outward appearance, and we don't take as much time for our inward man or inward woman appearance. So, just think about the balancing of those two.
You took it back old school with Windex and the toothbrush. No.
That's that PA Philly, you know what I mean?
Right? I'm like, wait, that was old school,
look,
right?
This is the new Jerry. This is the new Jerry. They don't know the Jerry in the white tee. They don't know the white tee Jerry.
They don't know the white tee. They don't know.
There's probably some photos out at the Greek somewhere. We try to keep that under lock and key. There's probably, that's why I'm not running for president.
Because they'd be the ones that
they'd be like, the videos would be coming out. They'd be like, yo, I know that bull. I know that bull right there. I've seen him before. Yeah.
Like, let me go back into my Rolodex. Let me go.
But that's what we did. You think about how much time we spent into, ironing a t-shirt and freshening up some kicks. But then when it comes to ourselves, we're like, I don't want to invest in me. Cats will buy a whole pack of t-shirts for the whole summer. Like, you have a fresh t-shirt every week. But I can't get a book once a week. I can't get a book once a month. I can't read a page. It's a thing that our brains have been programmed to think a certain way, and not realizing that one is so much more important than the other when it comes to, and that's a maturity thing. I think a lot of, when you talk about boys to men, I was fortunate. My manhood journey is different than a lot of people that live in this time period. I knew my father, I knew both my grandfathers, and I knew my great-grandfather. All of them were married until the day that their spouses died, or they died. All of them had multiple children. So I saw their relationships with their children. I saw the relationships with their great-grandchildren and their great-great-grandchildren. So it shapes you. How you become a man is shaped by the other men that are around you.
I love it. Oh my goodness. And that tells you guys something. One of the things that I want you to listen to this, reasons I want you to listen to this is because Speakeasy Podcast listeners, I'm bringing you people that you can connect to. I'm bringing you people that they're coming with open arms. Okay, so we're supposed to social distance. So they're coming with open arms from
virtual arms,
right? Virtual arms to come alongside you, to connect with you, support you, and really have some honest conversations. I'm really big on having conversations because conversations are what shift everything. And so, guess what? It's time to have some conversations about what you've been doing that isn't working, what you want to do, and where you want to go. It's time for us to have some real conversations, not just fluff, not just pie in the sky dreams, or not just conversations that don't, they're not relevant to your life and your demo, but some conversations that are really going to make you say, okay, it's time to jump off this cliff. Let me make sure that my parachute is good. Let me make sure that I know exactly where I'm supposed to land, or at least in the area where I'm supposed to land, because we have far too many people that are getting hurt, and we don't need to be. There's far too much going on, and we have the power to change it. So I'm excited about this series, guys. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you are sharing out the series with someone you know, a brother, a father, a son, a friend. Tell them, listen, these are some conversations that you need to be a part of, and you join the conversation by go to bit.ly/World Voice Community. We appreciate each and every one of you, because without the Speakeasy podcast listeners, there is no Speakeasy podcast. And with that being said, your host, Altavis Pelzer. And until next time, don't forget to press it out. See ya.